13 News at 5 begins with breaking news out of the Middle East. That's where Hamas has agreed to release all Israeli hostages.
This was part of a deal President Trump announced to end the war in the Gaza Strip. The president had said Hamas must agree to the deal by 6 o'clock Sunday night or, quote, all hell like no one has ever seen before will break out against Hamas.
Right now, Hamas has 48 Israeli hostages. Around 20 of them are believed to be alive.
Hamas also agreed to give up power in the Gaza Strip as part of this deal. Right now, it's not clear how exactly the U.S. and Israel will respond to what appears to be a partial acceptance. NBC Nightly News with Tom Yamas. We'll continue our coverage of this breaking news coming up at 6:30.
Richard Engel is in the Middle East right now working to gather more info on this situation, and you can see his update at 6:30 right here on Channel 13.
Here locally tonight, a developing story. An unarmed man shot by Indianapolis police serving an arrest warrant is in custody in the hospital tonight.
Rich Nye talked to the man's girlfriend, who says she witnessed the shooting and says it was unnecessary.
IMPD officers surrounded this garage in an alley behind Grant Avenue Thursday just before 6 p.m. They believed 36-year-old Cartonio McBride was hiding inside. The Violent Crimes Task Force was serving arrest warrants for McBride being a felon with a gun and robbery. They also wanted to question McBride in a child abuse investigation. Police say McBride exited the garage, initially following commands to put his hands up and walk toward them. But police say he stopped, and after a brief exchange of words, reached for his waistband and attempted to run. Police say at least one officer deployed a taser, another officer fired their gun. McBride fell to the ground. Police say McBride reached for his waistband again, and officers fired more shots. IMPD says 3 officers fired their guns. 2 women who say they witnessed the shooting say that the man who was shot goes by the name of Tony, and he was shot between the garage and the house. There's a blood stain in the grass right by the fence. Tony's girlfriend would not talk on camera, but told me, "I just want people to know that was very reckless. It was uncalled for. They could have killed him. They could have killed anybody in the house. They could have killed me. I was standing there. They did not have to shoot him like that." No weapon was found on McBride or in the area around him. His girlfriend said the only thing McBride was holding was a water bottle. In Indianapolis, Rich Nye, 13 News.
And police reported McBride in critical condition after the shooting last night. No update was given on his condition today, but police are saying that he's in custody in the hospital.
Tonight, Metro Police are investigating a suspected explosive device which showed up on a body at the Marion County Coroner's Office. This is all connected to a deadly crash in Johnson County, which started as a police chase in Indy. The coroner sent a statement saying the bomb squad was called out this morning to the office near Prospect Street and South Keystone Avenue. She said the device was safely removed and there's no ongoing threat. But there are still, of course, a lot of questions about how this suspected explosive got there on Marco Pena Morales' body. The coroner and Metro Police say the incident is, quote, not believed to be a targeted act of violence toward any person or entity, end quote.
Tonight, the Marion County Sheriff's Office is investigating the death of an inmate. Correction staff found 52-year-old Frederick Bennett unresponsive around 12:45 this morning. Now, they tried to help him, but emergency medical services declared him dead about a half hour later. Investigators believe pre-existing medical factors contributed to his death. Also tonight, a judge in Hendricks County is deciding whether a man charged with killing an Indiana State Trooper 2 years ago can get life without parole if convicted.
That's what prosecutors are seeking in the case. Our Ashton Hackman was in the courtroom as both sides made their arguments.
Eddie Jones has yet to be convicted by a jury for murder for allegedly running over an Indiana State Trooper during a chase in June of 2023. Today's hearing, though, was centered around whether or not Jones is intellectually disabled. And here's why that matters.
Under Indiana law, a person convicted of murder cannot be sentenced to life without parole if found to be intellectually disabled. Jones's attorneys say 2 independent doctors found Jones fits the description under state law: significantly sub-average intellectual functioning, substantial impairment of adaptive behavior, and documentation the conditions existed before the suspect was 22. In a hearing that went most of the day Friday, a judge listened to the arguments by Jones's attorneys and testimony from the two doctors. They painted a picture of a man with an extremely below-average IQ who is unable to take care of himself without help. The judge will make his ruling on Jones's intellectual abilities at a later date.
A jury trial in the case is scheduled for next month. In Hendricks County, Ashton Hackman, 13 News.
And tonight, a man who took a plea deal in a crash which killed 3 people now knows the time he'll spend behind bars.
A Marion County judge sentenced Luis Leyva Gonzalez to 2 years in prison, followed by 7 years of home detention and then 3 years suspended. He faced up to 48 years behind bars, but prosecutors argued for up to 25 years in prison.
Leyva Gonzalez pleaded guilty to 9 counts, including 3 counts of resisting law enforcement, resulting in death, as well as reckless homicide for the crash in September of '03. The crash at 10th and Mithofer killed his 14-year-old brother and 32-year-old cousin. Investigators say the 3 were on a joyride when state police tried to pull them over for speeding.
The crash also killed the driver of the other car, 21-year-old Michaela Hankins. She was a newlywed and a mother who worked as a cashier at the Walmart on East Washington.
Well, we are watching radar, which is not something we've done over the past couple of weeks or so, or at least week or so, because we do have a couple of showers that popped up. Now, additional moisture came in during the overnight, and through this morning we started to see the radar become a little more active. As we lose some of the heating of the day, we expect the activity is going to calm down, but these are few and far between. Those that are getting some rain are getting some heavy rain because these are nearly stationary as they pop up. Just to the south and west of Columbus, still some ongoing showers, and don't be surprised if you're traveling down Interstate 65. Say through Bartholomew County if you don't see a couple of isolated showers. Also to the west, Rockville to Clinton, we're seeing some heavier downpours. There is some lightning with these, not severe storms, but just something we're going to watch as the temperatures are still into the mid to upper 80s for many of you, although there are a couple locations where some rain cooling has happened. We expect more 80s in the forecast, but through this evening it will be slowly cooling down, and not cooling down quite as much as we have been. From the 80s through the 70s, we'll only go with 60s for tonight, not the 50s, because that extra humidity. Tomorrow we bring the temperatures back up into the 80s. Plenty of sunshine expected. Coming up, I'm going to talk about how much longer we have to deal with these 80-degree temperatures and when we could see more rain in the forecast.
All right, Rob, thank you. Tonight, Indianapolis fire investigators are trying to figure out what led to a major fire at an apartment complex.
Firefighters are telling us several people were hurt and at least a dozen people displaced by the fire on the west side. Brendan Schaff shares how the people who live there got out of the building and where they'll go now.
This apartment complex on Port-au-Prince Street in Wayne Township was heavily damaged by the overnight fire. 4 people were injured and a dozen units burned.
This is my home.
Alberto Ramirez lived there for 3 years before his apartment caught fire. His wife and their 2 babies were inside. Fortunately, he says they're all okay.
My wife called for me at 3:25. I need help for you.
Ramirez was one of at least 12 people displaced by the fire, which happened around 3:15 a.m. He says that he was moved to a new apartment at the complex. On Friday morning, he came back to look at his old home.
Was it shocking to see everything look like this?
Yeah.
It was a scary situation when this apartment complex was on fire. Some people actually jumping from the 2nd floor to escape the flames.
When you show up, people are jumping out of a building, you know the inside of that building's not tenable. So the guys went to work really quick.
2 people were transported to the hospital, 1 adult and 1 child, and were awake and talking when they left the scene. Wayne Township Fire Department responded to the fire along with Speedway and Indianapolis Fire Departments. Captain Eric Bannister says that it was out of control before they arrived. It took about 20 to 25 minutes for it to be controlled and another 35 to 40 minutes to completely extinguish.
The stairways were inaccessible. They were all on fire. We could not get inside that way, the normal way in and out, so they went through the windows to go into bedrooms to look for people, and fortunately they found nobody inside. Everybody has self-evacuated.
Bannister says neighbors alerted others about the fire, putting themselves at risk as they stepped up to help before first responders arrived. The fire's cause is still under investigation. Brandon Sheff, 13 News.
And Bannister says the American Red Cross and the apartment's management team arrived quickly this morning to help those who lost their homes.
New developments this week in the push to bring more data centers to central Indiana, including some tense moments at one public meeting in particular. We talk about it on this weekend's edition of Crossroads Politics.
I'm talking to you now, so...
Calm down, sir.
I want to know.
A special hearing on the subject of rezoning more land for a secret data center project near Monrovia drew an overheated crowd. The county's Advisory Plan Commission hearing public comment on what is being dubbed Project Louie to rezone 158 acres of land on top of the 390 that has already been approved for rezoning.
If we fail to live up those standards, you have the power. You can ask your Plan Commission attorney. If we don't meet our standards, we can be sued, we can be shut down.
I will not let my grandchildren, great-grandchildren, any of them go outside when all that starts. I don't know what that's going to do to them.
You can watch Crossroads Politics Sunday morning at 10 on our streaming app WTHR Plus, or you can watch it anytime on demand.
Well, this government shutdown is not wrapping up anytime soon, at least not this weekend.
Doesn't look like it. The issues Republicans and Democrats cannot find common ground on tonight, and how it's hurting Americans from coast to coast. That's ahead tonight at 5:30. First at 5, the U.S. shoots down a boat carrying narcotics.
The video the defense secretary just released in where he says it happened. But first, a 15-year-old boy accused of raping a child on a school bus.
Tonight, hear from the teen suspect's grandmother and why she says he didn't do anything wrong.